What if Al Capone, the most notorious gangster of Prohibition-era Chicago, traded his Tommy gun for a ledger and a calculator? What if the man who once ran the city's underworld suddenly became an accountant? What if Al Capone was an accountant? He had been brought down by taxes once, and he never forgot the lesson. Now he brought from his past twisted knowledge, the secrets that once let him hide money and move fortunes in the shadows. But instead of using those tricks only for himself, he opened an office with a different business model. For a price, he would teach others how to keep their books clean, or conveniently opaque. Imagine a world where the man who fell to a tax form now sits behind the desk deciding who pays and who doesn't, and charges a bribe to reveal what the ledgers won't. Would this be clever justice, ironic poetry, or the most dangerous loophole of all? Stay with us to see how Capone turns balance sheets into bargaining chips. And if this story sparks your curiosity, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Our channel keeps reimagining famous lives in surprising ways. The office didn't look like much, just a desk, a calculator, and stacks of dusty ledgers. But when Al Capone sat behind it, the room felt less like an accounting firm and more like a courtroom where he was both the judge and the executioner. Clients didn't arrive with receipts neatly folded in envelopes. They arrived trembling, carrying suitcases full of cash, desperate for him to adjust their numbers. This was his first secret. Intimidation never left the books. A raised eyebrow from Capone could erase a deduction. A cold silence could turn a financial statement into a death sentence. Numbers weren't just math in his hands. They were weapons, sharpened columns of figures that decided who prospered and who crumbled. And yet, people lined up. Businessmen, politicians, even entertainers wanted to sit across from him, to trade fear for security. Was it really accounting, or extortion disguised as financial advice? Could the balance sheet ever tell the truth again when fear itself had become an expense written in invisible ink? The real question lingered. If Capone could bend the law with bullets in the past, what could he do now with numbers? Capone's office became famous not for balancing budgets, but for balancing favors. Clients didn't just bring receipts and invoices. They slid envelopes of money across his desk, knowing that with the right fee, their numbers would, magically align. This was his second secret. Bribes weren't hidden in his ledger. They were the ledger. Capone would write down payments in neat, professional handwriting, as if corruption itself had become an official line item in accounting. To outsiders, it looked like a simple transaction. To insiders, it was a ticket to financial invisibility. The most ironic part? Clients trusted him more than they trusted the government. They whispered that Capone could erase problems no tax authority would ever detect. And yet, the smoke from his cigar curled above the desk, a reminder that nothing was free, that every favor came at a price. But here's the question that unsettled everyone who dealt with him. Was Capone saving them from the system, or binding them to his own? Could the gangster-turned-accountant really be trusted with the very numbers that could destroy them? Soon, Capone's client list read like a who's who of power. Politicians, movie stars, and business tycoons all found themselves seated across from his desk, nervously sliding documents forward as if confessing sins. Yet none of them left disappointed. Every audit ended not with exposure, but with relief and a new kind of loyalty. This was his third secret, forging alliances through corruption. For Capone, numbers weren't just about profits or losses. They were bargaining chips. A senator's hidden expenses became leverage. A celebrity's unreported earnings turned into a promise of silence. Each client walked away indebted, not just financially, but personally. Soon, rumors spread that Capone wasn't just cooking the books. He was writing the rules. Politicians who should have feared exposure instead praised his financial genius. Celebrities who risked scandal smiled for cameras, safe under his protection. But the question lingered. Was Capone building a business or an empire? And if everyone powerful was in his pocket, who was left to hold him accountable? The press once called him public enemy number one. But now, under the glow of headlines, Al Capone had been reborn. Articles praised his business consulting firm, portraying him as a financial savior for struggling companies. Photographs showed him behind a desk with glasses perched on his nose, cigar smoke curling like a halo, the picture of legitimacy. This was his fourth secret, controlling the narrative. For every ledger he kept in the shadows, there was a polished story handed to the public. Journalists who dared to dig deeper often found their investigations redirected. A generous consulting fee, a discreet envelope of money, and suddenly, the story changed. Soon, newspapers no longer asked if Al Capone had reformed. They asked if he was a genius. Clients didn't fear the risks anymore. They wanted to be seen with him. The accountant who once evaded taxes was now rewriting history with receipts and headlines. But here's the chilling thought. If the truth could be bought and sold as easily as a balance sheet, then how much of reality itself was just another entry in Capone's books? The day came when Al Capone faced his own books. Reporters filled the room, clients whispered in panic, and rivals waited to see if the accountant who rewrote everyone's ledgers could escape his own. Al Capone opened a massive ledger, its pages yellowed and thick with secrets. He placed his cigar on the desk, flipped through the columns, and with a smirk declared, "In accounting, nothing ever disappears, it just moves." With that, he closed the book, as if closing the case on justice itself. This was his fifth and final secret, rewriting justice as numbers. To Al Capone, guilt was a liability, innocence an asset, and the law nothing more than a spreadsheet waiting to be adjusted. His verdicts weren't delivered in courtrooms, but in ledgers, where every bribe balanced every crime. The audience was left stunned. Was this really accounting, or the rebirth of his empire under a new disguise? And the haunting question remained, if even justice could be reduced to numbers on a page, who would dare to audit Al Capone? Closing and call to action. And so we ask, what if Al Capone truly became an accountant? Would the balance sheet be a tool for order, or just another empire of corruption written in numbers and smoke? Perhaps the greatest irony isn't that he was brought down by taxes, but that he could turn those same taxes into weapons of power. When the man who once ruled with bullets starts ruling with ledgers, the line between honesty and deception disappears. If this story made you rethink how fragile justice and money can be, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Would you trust your taxes to Capone, or fear what he'd find in your books? And here's the final question for you. Which other celebrity would you like to see reimagined in our next episode? Because history may belong to the past, but imagination belongs to all of us.